Maybe I am lost here in this forest. Like you, I don't quite know how I got here, or how I get out, or if I want to get out. But yes, of course I want to get out. The brambles clutch at me, the branches overhead threaten to break and fall and crush me. I know I'm not safe in here, but I can't seem to find the pathway to get out. Wherever I turn seems to bring me up against new obstacles. I know there is a safe path, one I've trodden before, but at this time I just can't see it. I've strewn weeds over it and obscured it from view. I don't think I want to try another path. Maybe I just need to stand still for a bit and take a look around. There is no breeze on my face and I have a heaviness in my chest. I can't breathe. The forest is oppressive and sucks my air away. A fetid heaviness sits in my stomach and makes me nauseated. I sink to my knees. The nettles sting at my bare legs and arms, but I barely notice the pain. I am lost, lost, lost. I chose to enter the forest and thought I'd found a way out. But maybe I hadn't left it. Maybe the forest keeps growing, pushing out feelers of new growth, so that when you think you are out, suddenly there is more to battle against, more to trip and confuse you. An ending and a new beginning. Circles and cycles. This is what the ring of silver means. It is as if the ring is closing around my throat and choking me. I can't breathe for thinking about what we have lost. A teardrop falls onto a smooth pool of blood. It causes more rings to form. Here is where you left the path the last time. The footprints are almost covered over by the snow. The twigs have been snapped back just as you remember, to show your passage along a strange path. And here is where the wolf found you. I'll race you to Grandma's house. The race to get inside those bricks and mortar, to wait for you, to devour you. But he didn't destroy you, and now you are back. You think the wolf may be after blood, and you'll give it to him. You can spill this blood time and again, and so the wolf can have it. Why should you care about the wolf? Well, you have seen the glint in his eye, felt the hunger about him, so he can feed. Take what you can spare. You push back the hood on your red cloak. A lock of hair falls from the ribbon at your neck and curls softly under your cheekbone, curved like the talon of a hawk. You stand and wait. This was my state of mind when I was emerging from postnatal depression 12 years ago. Many things contributed to how I felt: my sense of failure, my state of wretchedness. The battle through the forest was an analogy I clung to. Wolves snapping at my heels, spurring me on. Birds chitter-chattering, confusing me, or sudden silences foreboding. I didn't hate the forest. The tangled forces of nature were things I had to come to terms with. I still respect the forest. I know that it has the potential to trip me up, confuse and lose me. But for now, I breathe the scent of fresh growth, fit my questing feet amongst gnarly roots, and let my hands embrace the textures. You bore inside me, finding vulnerable spots from branches snapped where I thought I had healed. Drops of sap, like tears, like blood. You catch them as they fall, like essence of me.
One of the main experiences was when I was away from my partner, disagreement, and I was left homeless, where I ended up in hospital for a week. I just thought there was no need to actually take the tablets. I just couldn't be bothered. I thought that was it. Mind helped us to get through that. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Mind. I've everything to thank them for. They're always there for me. And any time, any problems, I ring up or pop down, just pop in for a chat and a cup of coffee and a biscuit, which, it builds you up after you've been through that sort of thing. It helped me to know that life was worth living. Even now, I think, I can't be bothered to take my night tablets, and I think back and say, don't be stupid. Think of the people you're leaving behind and think about what you went through, and you definitely don't want to go down that line again. So it does make a difference, makes a great difference actually. I can't thank them enough. Family's been there, backing us, and they're all for Mind. My partner is now, she's all for Mind and sticking with me. She's a happy family, actually working at Carl Need Mind, penny shop. I've been here 11 years now, so it's that shows how much I like it. I like going walking, even though my breathing's not good, but I can go for short walks, and I like going to the lake, just walking around the lakes, and I can't stop in. I've got to be out. If I'm not volunteering, I like to be out. I don't like between four walls. It's a case of when I get up, I want to be out and going and doing something. It's exercise. You must keep fit. It helps you mentally relax. Think about the things, especially when you're either with your partner or with somebody you can talk to and explain everything to them. Anybody that wants to talk about it, they're always welcome to come in and definitely see Mind or the organisation at Carlisle and Penrith and Appleby. A lot of people seem to keep it to themselves rather than get out and tell folk. This last 6 weeks there's been 3 people that I didn't even know had mental health problems. And just through myself being in as a volunteer, it's built them courage to actually come up and talk to us. And they thought the same as when I first did, that nobody wanted to listen. But there is always somebody out there that will.
Battered by recent winds, a troop of brutes from across the Atlantic. A tree on the other side of the petrol, to me, stands in a now permanent lean. Maimed, a tine from its crown, now pointing down instead of reaching towards the sustaining sun. Suspended by a bit of bark, tougher than me, peeled down, revealing the raw phloem. It stares down at the very river, responsible for its being there, with itself reflected back, withered and starved. An old man seeing himself for the first time and unable to ascertain exactly how long he has been old, as if the sight of his own reflection has jolted him geriatric, as if all his cells have received a lifetime of wear in one dose. Absorbed nearly a century of sugar and other aggressively marketed substances, pushed from America's tallest buildings and eroded and fast forward by the winds generated when 40, 50 years of work and strife pass by in an instant. His limbs are angular and severe, waning branches of a tree, no longer capable of rising past the shoulder to lift the paper crown to the paper-thin skin of his crown on this sudden birthday and still potential death day. as he hangs from his unreliable flesh over the river while I watch from the other side.
And for myself, I've experienced a lot of bumpy road stuff. I've been through more depressive cycles than I'd care to think about. I'm good now. I'm usually quite... I understand it. But it hasn't been easy. And it's been a path that's taken me best part of a decade to understand. Sometimes you're on a bicycle and you can go really quickly, and sometimes you're just sitting under a tree and crying for a couple of hours. But the important thing is that you're moving. No matter how dark the forest gets, and no matter how difficult the terrain is, as long as you're moving, you're okay. You can do it. You may be thinking to yourself, I'm going the wrong direction, but you're facing the direction. The problem is when you sit down by the tree and don't want to do anything more, you can't find the energy to stand up and keep going. That's where things go wrong, that's where things go bad. Life's always going to be ups and downs. No one's got a perfect life. And the people that say they've got a perfect life, no, I would hesitate to disagree. All have their bank account. It's one of the two. But I do feel that as long as you're moving, as long as you're getting through the trees, as long as you can see the edge of the clearing, you're all right. You can do it. It just takes time. It takes time, takes support, and sometimes it takes a map that makes something resembling sense. It doesn't have to make all the sense in the world. As long as you've got a vague idea, you can get out there. You can keep moving.
I am at your thigh again, in an uncased, unlocked phone, pocketed in faded blue Levi's, tight enough to speed dial me. Footsteps, mutters, barking, swish, swish, an owl hoot, vexed shouts to our two dogs, who are playing up, as usual, on the Frith wood walk at dusk. You cannot hear my yells, and I am a helpless guardian in a weekday hotel bedroom. So, after a minute, I hang up for fear of being your bad luck. I could text you, call you a clot, but even that could be bad luck. A punctiliously modern man, I warn of risks of solo walking, but never insist that you stop. You are insouciant, and I worry. The Dachshunds just lick the hands of strangers. So I ask for the old wood's help. Frith is peace and sanctuary, and, in Anglo-Saxon theory, nobody could harm you there.
Having counselling was important. I found it easier to talk to someone outside of the situation. They gave me guidelines, which reversed my way of thinking. GAD means you worry about everything, and it's magnified. They gave me a structure to reverse how I thought, thinking of the negative impact of my behaviour so I could help myself. You have to give yourself a quiet period where you are not allowed to worry. It's really difficult at first. Counselling, medication, self-help, walking, talking, listening. Now, well, I am as good as I will ever be. I am doing all right. I felt like I wanted to go to a remote place and scream, but when I got there, just being in that serenity calmed me. During the worst period, I was afraid. Being outdoors with people made me fearful, paranoid, anxious. Being on my own in the outdoors was calming. In a forest, I would have been okay.
I work in mental health, and I'm actually really surprised by the lack of understanding of many people I work with about how members of their families, communities actually struggle every day with simple aspects of life. You know, getting out of bed, getting dressed, having a shower. Some people find even getting out of bed is too much. Fortunately, there are services available, including voluntary services like mine, the NHS, where I work as an art therapist, and networks of family and community support, which are very important for people. The more people get involved with getting to know their neighbours and friends who are experiencing mental health difficulties, the more they will be able to understand the kinds of issues that they deal with. And not to think of them really as a diagnosis, but just as a person who maybe has different challenges. And, you know, we all have challenges, so we can help each other. Forests are a really rich metaphor, I think. And as an art therapist, I actually encourage my clients to work with images and metaphors in order to understand their mental health better. Quite often people will talk about what it might be like to walk through a forest, or they may actually draw a picture of a forest, and then we can explore together what it feels like to be in that place, how things could change, maybe how they could make a path through the forest. If the forest seems to be impenetrable, they may decide to maybe create from clay, for example, some kind of a tool in which to hack their way through the undergrowth, or they may just decide to keep walking until they get to a clearing in the forest when they can see better, or they might just decide to sit on a tree stump and rest for a while until they have the energy to carry on. So when you think about it, you can talk with them about where they are and how they can cope with the challenges that they're facing. Sometimes people are actually not aware of all the services that are available. I work in a crisis service where we do really intensive support for people and see them every day, or sometimes twice a day, in their own homes when they really can't cope anymore. And people have said, if only I'd known this service existed, I would have reached out sooner. But, you know, again, people don't even realise what's there. Sometimes GPs don't even know what services exist. I personally find being outdoors to be very therapeutic. When you go outside, maybe for a walk by the sea or the mountains, and you see how huge the universe is and the world is compared to you as a tiny little thing, you can put things into perspective a little bit. And I think that can help to keep one's own problems from taking over too much headspace, really. So not only can it put things into perspective, but it can make you feel more relaxed by, you know, allowing a place to get some fresh air, some exercise, maybe a swim. All these things are very good for mental health, encouraging people just to sort of stop and smell the flowers, really. It's a classic thing. Mindfulness is very much talked about these days, but it's something that's been around forever, which is just being mindful of where you are. And so being in nature is a very effective way to be mindful of your surroundings, because you can look at each leaf on the tree, you can look at the flowers, you can notice the insects that are flying around and the blades of grass under your feet, and all these things will help you to become more aware and in the moment. Those kinds of things can help all of us to become less stressed and anxious about the future or the past when we're just thinking about what's happening right now.
I'm the tree that makes you humans swear and cuss. I'm that tree that causes you daft humans nothing but grief. I'm the tree which eats cats, kites and footballs for lunch. I'm the one who drops its leaves all over your clean driveway or all over your just washed car. I'm that tree who gives dogs a good whack on the trademans just as it's about to cock its leg and give me a watering I don't really want or really need. Oh, silly humans, I'm that tree which you just happen to be climbing when the branch you're holding onto gives way and down you go, heading back down to earth with a bone-breaking thud. Did you crazy humans know that us trees have been around a lot longer than you lot have? Back to when those pesky dinosaurs were stomping around and munching on us. Oh, how I love to play around with you daft humans. The more you chop my kind down,
the more we keep coming back and causing humankind nothing but lovely trouble. I love it when my leaves change colour and the birds dart in and out of their nests to feed their young. So, humans, the next time you're standing under a tree, beware, or you may get more than you bargained for. Timber! You talk to the trees, but we don't listen to you. Would we lie to you? You humans are conkers.
Norway is opening 2 new hospitals. The term Friluftssykehuset comes from the Norwegian concept of friluftsliv, the importance of spending time in nature. Skovstilhu is from a Norwegian concept of a calmness of spirit from being among trees. When someone experiences a stressful event, the amygdala, an area of the brain that contributes to emotional processing, sends a distress signal to the hypothalamus.
In folk literature and traditional tales, forests symbolise the unconscious. The protagonist enters at his or her peril. The traveller could see the forest from where he stood on the hill. It stretched as far as the eye could see to the east and west, but beyond, to the north, were the distant hills and the road home. He determined to go through the forest rather than circumscribe it. The direct path would, he reasoned, take only a matter of hours, while going round would take days. It was, nonetheless, with a heavy heart that he stumbled down the hillside to draw up at the edge of the forest, where he was confronted by swathes of tangled briar that barred his way in. Pulling the hatchet from his backpack, he hacked at the thick thorny stems, eventually clearing a path for himself. All the same, the briar clawed and scratched at arms and legs as he pushed through it into the shrouded darkness. He elbowed his way past low branches and tripped over gnarled roots, falling headlong on more than one occasion and grazing his hands and knees. He pressed doggedly on. What little light there was would soon fail. After an hour, he stopped to rest, and sinking down onto a fallen tree trunk, took his bearings. He was still on course, he thought, to clear the trees to the north after only a further hour's travel, and reasoned that he must now be at the forest's very heart. If, like the cackling ravens that sat in the branches high above him, he had been able to take flight and look down upon himself, he would have seen how misguided he was. As he sat, he thought he detected some way off to his left movement between the trees. A deer, perhaps? It was difficult to tell. The fleeting shape kept a dark shadow. He prayed silently it was not a wolf scouting for the pack. But no, there it was again, not a wolf, nor a deer. Much more like a man, moving swiftly and evasively. It cannot be, he said, hackles raised. Making haste, he set off again on a path well away from the figure, cursing the hidden perils underfoot. After covering 1/2 mile or so, he leant, panting, on an ancient oak, and looked back the way he had come. The other, not 100 yards away, darted behind a different tree. There could be no doubting it now. He was being followed, stalked, by one who, he feared, sought to do him harm. He could not let that happen. He emerged from behind the oak and stood boldly facing where he had last seen the stranger. "Hi!" he shouted, hoping his bravado would ward off his pursuer. "Who are you? What do you want?" "Hi yourself! came the disembodied reply. Or perhaps what he heard was only the raven's cries carried aloft on the wind. He turned again and set off at a pace. If the stranger would not show himself, the traveller must evade him. Light was fading fast. For the rest of his journey, he sensed the other's presence behind, beside, and beyond him. The last of the day's light cast long shadows at the fringes of the forest as the traveller reached its farthest side. He felt for the hatchet on his back, but it was no longer there, and when he turned again, the stranger blocked his path. He was the same size and shape as the traveller, but where there should have been light, there was darkness. Where shadow, only light. The traveller trembled in the presence of what he realised could only be an avenging angel. The angel raised his arms in front of him, as if to strike the traveller. He, in turn, found himself stepping, inexplicably, toward the dark stranger, whose arms descended, enveloping him.
I think it's vital that people talk about mental health. It's possibly one of the few taboo subjects left that is misunderstood within the community far and wide, particularly in the mature male situation. I do believe that the more people talk about mental health and their experiences, then the less of a fear it becomes. The community and the support is vital. One of the most common attributes in any social services setting is the lack of social inclusion. People can tend to hide themselves away or feel themselves excluded from the community, and it is vital that everybody has the opportunity to include themselves in the community for their well-being, as it has been proven that to interact with other human beings is good for our well-being and mental health. It's quite amazing when in the modern era we have so many means of communication that we very rarely get to talk to other human beings. With families dissipated and spread out now, it's very difficult to have that nuclear family support and setup. And in fact, it's very difficult sometimes to actually talk to one's family. Sometimes talking to a stranger or a professional might actually help. Being outside is good for the soul. Being outside, whether it's walking, being in the woods, being by the coast, being by river, water, these places can soothe the soul and nature can help. It's part of a holistic process which I believe should be more commonplace rather than a medical or CBT form of treatment. And in fact, I'm a firm believer that there should be prescribed arts by GPs for people experiencing mental health distress. The use of the forests, the woods, the paths that they have is a great analogy for life and its journey. Sometimes we choose a path and sometimes a path is chosen for us, and sometimes we get lost in the woods and sometimes we have a torch.
Here it is, a wreckage of a cottage in the middle of the forest. Of course, it had to be. Ivy chokes the brickwork. The foundations must have been strong, but nothing else remains. The idea of a cottage, the memory. This cottage was where the wolf devoured Grandma. You could see it in her eyes, the yellowed madness which made her act in a certain way, like an animal. The first thing the wolf ate was her brain, her sweet, delicious brain. He savoured every juicy morsel. He devoured her memories, he took her identity from her and replaced it with the yellow-clouded madness which you came to recognise every time you looked into her face. He left a tiny, tiny nugget of her succulent brain, a quivering teaspoonful, so every now and again, when the wolf was sleeping, she would stare out at you, her bright eyes blue and clear, and announce some treasured memory, some grand scheme, something to make you think that the wolf had eaten his fill and moved on. But that moment would be brief, swift, gone as quickly as it came, and the vicious twisting, the crack of pain in the voice, and the descent of the wolf's furry paw on top of Grandma's head would remind you that she was his prisoner. The last time you saw Grandma, she had her head in the oven. How funny. It was one of those things she did, looking for Hansel and Gretel. She didn't hear you calling, didn't turn and smile. So off you went to play, deep, deep into the forest, and you saw Grandma's cottage fly. She flew away from the wolf, you were told. That's why you never saw her again. You saw the cottage fly, at least that's how you remembered it. And now you've heard a knock at the door, a door that isn't there, that can't be there, and a voice saying, "Lift up the latch and walk in." A door has been unlocked. The wolf has come back. And this time, he has come for you.
I breathe out and in. I breathe out and in.
Deep within the forests of your mind lay the stagnant memories of time once lost. The cavernous deep thoughts lay in the hidden caves of your mind's eye, sometimes wishing things could have been so different. And how can we put some things right again? But we cannot change the sometimes darker times with the remnants that quantify the myriad thoughts.
I breathe out and in. I breathe out and in.
Acorn Aphrodite, bursting, blowing, oaks of warning, flexing,
I breathe out and in. I breathe out and in. I breathe out and in, out and in. Take and give back, I drink and sweat and weep. I weep. I breathe out and in. Take from the air what should be in the ground. Quench my thirst on your slops and weep for earth at the stake. I weep for the children, they will watch her die. I breathe out and in, pulling at your spew, taking from the air what should be in the ground. Earth begs for food and I weep for the children clinging to her, sucking at her empty tits. They will watch her die, and I will not shed a tear for them. Earth begs for food, and you take it from her mouth. You take it from her mouth and throw it to waste. You piss it away, and I quench my thirst on your slops. I breathe out and in, out and in. Take and give back, I drink and sweat and weep. 'Tis all I can do.
The forests I now see as a mixture of dark green, with light sometimes flickering through, and with the beauty of the deep blue skies. Sometimes with the rattlesnakes one must try to avoid at all costs, and with the beauty of the new moons meaning new beginnings, full moons that throw light everywhere, and the amazing deep orange and golden sunsets laying claim to the skies, when all is quiet, and lighting up one's life when all seems lost, gloomy and cloudy. Then one can come alive again.
I breathe out and in. I breathe out and in. I breathe out and in. I breathe out and in.
Dendrites and dendrons are branched protoplasmic extensions of a nerve cell that propagate the electrochemical stimulation received from other neural cells to the soma of the neuron, from which the dendrites project. An old word for tree in Welsh is gwyth, or gwythan. The word for alphabet is gwythor, or ywythor. Science is gwythianiaeth. Old Welsh for an Irish person is goidel, which gives goidel in Old Irish, then gaethel, and eventually gale. All from Proto-Celtic wedus, wild wood wilderness.
Oak logs will warm you well that are old and dry. Logs of pine will sweetly smell, but the sparks will fly. Birch logs will burn too fast, chestnut scarce at all. Hawthorn logs are good to last, cut them in the fall. Holly logs will burn like wax, you may burn them green. Elm logs like to smouldering flax, no flame to be seen. Beech logs for winter time, yew logs as well. Green elder logs it is a crime for any man to sell. Pear logs and apple logs, they will scent your room. Cherry logs across the dogs, smell like flower of broom. Ash logs, smooth and grey, burn them green or old. Buy up all that come your way, worth their weight in gold.
How important is it for people to understand mental health? Very important, because it's important to me, because, how can I put it? I'm not exactly as strong as people think I am. So yeah, I think it's very important. My path has been a long one, a painful one at times, joyful, but at times still carrying on with the help of my sister and other people, friends, which I've got many of. And I've been lost a few times, but I'm still here, I'm still walking about. As I say, my path has gone backwards, forwards, sideways, upside down, back to front, and I've still got to walk it. And now there's just me and my sister. If it hadn't been for her, I think I would have done something stupid many years ago, because when I lost my mother, the bottom fell out of my world. I actually cracked up in here once, downstairs. I started crying, I couldn't stop. And when my mum died, I blamed myself. And the nurses said, even if I got to hospital one day before or one day after, it would not have made 1 inch of difference. She still would have gone. And every now and again, I still blame myself for her death. And I know it wasn't my fault, but I just got to grin and bear it. I needed all the help I could get, because when my mother died, I had no idea what I was doing. I literally hit the ground running. I had no idea what was going on, what I was supposed to be doing, nothing. So all I've got is people here in Cornerstones. If it hadn't been for them, I think I would have probably done away with myself a couple of years ago. If my mother's gone, there's no one to keep an eye on me, should I say? Well, I know my sister lives in Newcastle, I don't see her that often, but if it didn't come down here, I really would go around the twist. Well, and if it hadn't been for Speakeasy and the late Mr. Pemberton, he helped a lot as well, because the first time I went down there, I was absolutely petrified. And he actually looked at one of my stories, and he liked it. He told me he liked it. And he just said, keep going. So, here I am, thanks to him. And my sister, and Cornerstones, and you, and Susan, and everybody else I can think of. I like being outdoors. I even like going around the old cemetery sometimes, just for a walk, just to clear my head. I'd love to go back to Mungrisdale. That's where I went with my mum. There was a little white house, and there was a stream not far from there, and me and my sister used to go and paddle in there. Do you remember that? And I'm going back to when I was little. Also, I'd love to go, where I'd love to go back to? Trafalgar Square, because I've got a photograph at home of either me or me and my sister sitting on one of the lines in Trafalgar Square. I know it's outdoors, it's not countryside, but when you're a kid, the first time you've ever been to London, it's a big place. In my back garden, we used to have a big rowan tree, and I think it was the time of the big storms, about 1980s. Well, it came down, and for some strange reason, it was falling straight. If it had, it would have taken my bedroom out. It actually went sideways and went into next door's garden. So it nearly missed killing me and my family, so I'm still here.
Sometimes I enjoy the company of trees more than I do that of people. They are generally more polite than humankind, I find, more generous in their discourse, more honest in their utterance. Some days I listen to them gossip in the hot summer breeze, like children laughing in sheer delight, taking pleasure in their green world. In autumn we sigh together as the cruel winds strip them bare once more. In winter times we huddle as one, longing for the seasons to change, for the return of the spring sun.
A person and a tree can belong with each other, and also to their offspring. No matter how far the seeds scatter, the sowing sings to the wanderer. The fig tree, with its heart-shaped leaves, called the Buddha to meditation, to reconcile his mind to the suffering of the world. After 49 days, he thanked the tree for its shade, and with it came enlightenment.
The green man is a symbol of pre-Christian in its origins. It was later adopted by Gothic carvers and placed in thousands of churches and cathedrals throughout Europe, from Ireland, Scotland, and across to Russia. He is usually shown as a male head formed as a leaf mask, often disgorging vegetation from his mouth, and he stands for humanity's deep kinship with trees and woods, the irrepressible life and the circle of renewal and rebirth. The Green Man is intimately associated with Robin of the Wood, the Green Knight of Arthurian legend, Jack of the Green, the May King or the Summer Lord, and is a Celtic god of the forest. An Old English term for the countryside is Green Man's, and it is a favourite name for taverns. In London alone, there are 30 pubs called the Green Man. There are also a few green women who remind us of the goddesses and nymphs and tree goddesses of India. And they are reminded in the song Greensleeves. The Green Man has festivals in May throughout England, Germany, Belgium, Czechoslovakia and elsewhere. He is also related to the Roman god of the trees, and along with Dionysus, who was born in a tree, a Celtic god and the first fool in the tarot. The Green Man is the guardian and revealer of mysteries, the intelligence of the world of vegetation, who knows and utters the secret laws of nature, and is the life force that sustains us but is beyond our power to control.
In Japan, we have forest bathing, or Shinrin-yoku, taking in the forest through our senses. Shinrin-yoku is a bridge between us and the natural world. It will bring you into the present moment and de-stress and relax you.
At the end of autumn, I saw the leaves were dying, turning orange, red, yellow and gold. I watched them falling to the floor. I knew that come the springtime, through the miracle of life, with sunlight and warmth returning, they'd be back again once more. Slender saplings, green shoots, old lumbering giants, deep-rooted, anchoring, spreading branches wide and forever reaching to the sky. From little acorns, oak trees grow, and you've got to reap just what you sow. Time is hidden, buried in their rings. They are majestic, wise, and noble. The trees are magic things.
Forest maps are rarely drawn. You find your own way through. Were they right? For some have fallen like sturdy oaks to guide you. Uncertainty plagues me in the night, ideas and dreams I can't explore. A zillion thoughts like shed leaves fall, and still I wonder, what's it all for? Looking back along life's path, time and space have changed the view. What I perceive is not what I see, and now I wonder, was it true? But now I question in the dark, are they still good and strong? Parental values mark the path. Was I misled, and were they wrong? Then day arrives, I stretch and move as winter branches reach for light. Their tangled chaos soothed by sun, bright Phoebus shines and doubts take flight.
I know, we've been here.
Yes, I've just been looking for a new catapult. Looks quite good, that one.
We are a forest. Badastatua moridesu. Sum un bosk. Vi är en skog. Imas vasos. Olema metza. Rudim goidwig. Suntem opadore. Hum et jangahai.
to her son, if bugs unfurl it, who comes and goes, and never leaves. Knock, knock. Who's there? Atch. Atch you. Bless you.